Hey, Anime Stark fam. Get ready for a mind-bending journey as we ask, what if Deku embraced the shadows? Join me in exploring a quirkless path to anti-heroism and beyond in this thrilling new series. Smash that subscribe button and let's dive into part 1 together. This is Anime Stark, let's go. Tilda, you can't become a hero without a quirk. Those words. Tilda, damn Deku. He'll never get into UA. Each of those words. Tilda, I'm sorry, Izuku. I'm sorry. It was like a knife stabbing him in the chest. What had he done wrong? Maybe he deserved it. Maybe he shouldn't have answered his mom that time. Maybe he should have eaten more vegetables in his life. Maybe he should have studied more for exams. Maybe he shouldn't have been so arrogant, even thinking about being a hero. But, was all that so bad? So bad that he deserved this? His dreams had been destroyed by the person he admired the most. But, in the end, life isn't fair, and Izuku Midoriya finally realized that. Izuku? Inko Midoriya, Izuku's mother, exclaimed surprised, "You're home early. Wasn't there any hero action to study today?" The boy didn't look at her, just went up to his room and slammed the door shut. He looked at his room. It was like a shrine to the number one hero, All Might. Anyone would think he was obsessed with the hero, but he simply admired him a lot. Or at least, he used to admire him. Now he only felt anger toward the hero's figure. How could he have admired someone who didn't care about others' feelings? Filled with rage, Izuku threw all his things, turning his room into a mess. Action figures lay broken, posters destroyed until the pieces were too small to break further, and he tore pages from all his notebooks, where he had gathered information about heroes. Minutes passed, and Izuku had run out of things to destroy. He sat on the floor of his chaotic room. After a while, someone knocked on the door. Izuku? His mother called, "Are you okay?" Izuku didn't answer. He wasn't okay, not at all. Izuku. His mother murmured once more before turning and leaving. Despite not having a quirk, Izuku had always been a good kid. He always sought to help others and never complained about life, finding a way to deceive himself somehow. But that had changed. The boy had opened his eyes, realizing that, yes, he had the right to complain, and life had no right to demand anything from him. Izuku grabbed a backpack, packed a few changes of clothes and 3,000 yen. He gathered all the data on every hero and put it in a small briefcase. He put on his best suit, looked out of his window. There was a tree nearby. Izuku stepped back to gain momentum and jumped, landing on the tree. He climbed down carefully and walked away. "Where did you go, Izuku?" A green-haired woman asked with tears in her eyes, watching as her world drifted away from her. "Where? What's your reason for joining us?" A man with a hand on his face, Tomura Shigaraki, asked. It had been a few days since Izuku had left home. Inko had called the police, but the boy was good at escaping. Midoriya sought to become a villain so he could get revenge on Katsuki Bakugo and All Might. The boy was good at collecting information and found the meeting point of some villains, an underground bar. "Personal," Izuku replied, shrugging. "What's your quirk?" Tomura asked. "I don't have any," the freckled boy replied. "How do you plan to be useful to us?" The hand guy asked, annoyed by the boy's behavior. If he didn't have any quirk, how did he plan to be useful? "I have information on all the heroes that have existed in Japan," Izuku explained. "Oh really?" Tomura asked, surprised. Izuku nodded. "I'm also a strategist," he added. "Just by studying a hero for a few minutes, I can quickly think of a way to defeat them." "You're an interesting kid," Tomura said. "It's a shame your potential is hindered by your lack of uniqueness." Izuku stood up, taking his briefcase and backpack. He knew that when someone mentioned his lack of quirk, the conversation was over. "But," the man continued, "perhaps I can find a way to get you a quirk." Izuku stood up abruptly. "What do you mean by get a quirk? Do you join?" Had he become this? A villain? Imagine for a moment that life has treated you poorly. Wouldn't you want to take a little revenge? Izuku smiled. "It will be a pleasure." "So, you came back?" Tomura asked as he watched a green-haired boy enter through the door. The boy nodded, smiling. Izuku had gone to see All for One and had gained a new quirk. Who would have thought that a villain would help him more than a hero? "What's your new quirk?" he asked Midoriya. "Why don't we fight, and you'll find out." "Don't underestimate me," Tomura replied. "I don't," Izuku answered. "Now, come, I'll let you make the first move." "It seems like you're underestimating me," The man approached Izuku and touched his neck with 4 fingers. Midoriya, despite knowing his quirk, remained unfazed. Well? Tomura asked. Why don't you try activating your quirk? Midoriya suggested. Tomura slowly placed his pinky finger on Izuku's neck, but nothing happened. Is that your quirk? Shigaraki asked. Nullifying quirks? Midoriya nodded, smiling. But that's not all. Interesting. Now that I have a quirk, nothing will stand between me and my goal. Nothing. Except your weak body. What does my body have to do with all this? Izuku asked, confused. When you nullify your opponent's quirk, you'll have no choice but to defeat them in a face-to-face battle. That's where my second quirk comes in, Izuku said, smiling. With this, I can return attacks. Show me, Shigaraki ordered. Since you touched me once, I should be able to use your quirk once, so if I do this. Midoriya reached for a stool nearby, and when his 5 fingers touched it, the stool turned to ashes. The man nodded, impressed with the powerful quirk his master had given him. Now we can move on to the second part of the plan. And could you tell me what that part is? Izuku asked. Getting more allies. That sounds like a good idea, the freckled boy commented. Just you and me is too sad. Who said it's just you and me? I haven't seen anyone else around here. We have one more member, you don't know them because they've been on a mission, recruiting more members and finding ways to defeat a certain hero. I already told you I have information on all heroes, right? Tell me the name, and I'll find a way to beat them. We already have a way to beat them, Shigaraki said. We just need to find a point where we know they'll be to attack. Which hero is it? Izuku insisted. You don't give up, do you? Never, proud Midoriya said. Now tell me. Wait a few months, I'm not sure if you're trustworthy yet. Izuku sighed. Okay, he said, raising his hands in defeat. Now I'll give you the same mission as Kurogiri, the other member, look for villains who could be useful to us and recruit them for our cause. What kind of people are we looking for? We need cunning people who can make decisions, having a powerful quirk is not very important. Then I'm off, Izuku said as he got up from the sofa he was sitting on and walked to the door. And remember, Midoriya, don't mess it up, Shigaraki told him. The boy just nodded without even looking at him and went out into the street. Izuku walked out onto the street, putting his hands in his pockets and began to walk. He looked around, searching for someone interesting or with evil intentions. Some time passed without anything interesting happening. The boy sighed, annoyed, he almost started to believe that everyone was against him. I told you I won't do it, old man. A voice echoed from a nearby alley. Midoriya abruptly stopped when he heard the voice, apparently talking on the phone. Interesting, Izuku murmured, taking out a notebook. He peeked into the alley and saw a boy with his back turned. The boy seemed to be his age, with strange hair, half red, half white. Without taking his eyes off the boy, Midoriya quickly sketched him on the page. I don't care what you think. The boy with strange hair shouted. I've already told you I won't do it. Fed up, the boy separated the phone from his ear and hung up, turned around, and kicked a nearby trash bag, freezing it. Midoriya noted that he had an ice quirk and also noticed a scar on his eye. Izuku smiled to himself and continued walking. With that little drawing and his ability, he was sure he would find a way to recruit him. Izuku kept walking. Who knows? Maybe he would find something interesting. A light blonde-haired boy with crimson eyes looked out the window of his room, visibly upset. Downstairs, on the first floor of his house, was Inko Midoriya, talking to his mom, Mitsuki Bakugo. It seemed that the idiot Deku had escaped from his house 2 weeks ago and hadn't returned. TSK, the boy said, evidently annoyed. He had managed to pass the UA entrance exam, All Might himself had saved his life, and the idiot Deku had finally left his life, but why did he feel so angry? Katsuki, come down and say hello, Mitsuki shouted from the first floor. The boy didn't respond. Katsuki, his mother insisted. I'm coming, he grumbled, knowing she wouldn't leave him alone. Katsuki got up from his seat and went down the stairs. In the living room, Inko was with Mitsuki, and on the table were 2 cups of tea that the women had apparently been drinking. Hello, Katsuki greeted, then turned around, intending to go back to his room. Oh, Bakugo-kun, how are you? Inko greeted. The blonde boy sighed and turned back. Fine, thanks, Katsuki replied. No matter how angry he was, he understood Inko's situation. And he, hoping to get into the best hero school, was considering being a better person to others. I heard you're applying to UA, right, Bakugo-kun? Inko asked with a sad smile. How could she not be sad when that was the school her son dreamed of attending? Bakugo just nodded, uncomfortable. Why had that damn Deku disappeared and made him go through all this trouble? Well, I wish you the best, Inko said. Mitsuki-san, I think I'll leave. Is it because Bakugo bothered you? Because if that's the case, I can. No, that's not it, Inko hurried to say. But I still have work to do. Thanks for everything, Mitsuki-san. I'll walk you to the door, Mitsuki said, getting up. Thank you, Mitsuki-san, Inko thanked. Goodbye, Bakugo-kun. The boy muttered a small goodbye. Both women got up and walked to the door. Damn Deku, Katsuki murmured before returning to his room. Bakugo put on workout clothes and went out for a run. He couldn't spoil his figure, especially when the entrance exam was so close. Bakugo ran through the city every day. Sometimes he heard villain attacks and unconsciously approached to see if Deku was there. Tilda, when did I become so weak? Ash Blonde thought as he ran towards the screams he heard. Is it an effect of becoming a hero? Damn. When the boy reached his destination, he saw the hero Kamui Woods and the rookie Mount Lady fighting a villain with a shark head. The boy looked around but didn't see his unmistakable green hair anywhere. Since, the boy muttered before continuing to run. Hey, said a freckled boy approaching a bicolor-haired one. You dropped this. Izuku had been following the boy for the past few days, learning about the places he usually frequented, his hobbies, and his relationships. Now Izuku was more confident that he could join the league. After all, his relationship with the number 2 hero left much to be desired. The boy said, turning around, seeing Midoriya holding out his wallet. The boy reached out to take it, but Izuku immediately grabbed his arm and shook his head. When someone gives you something, you have to say thank you, he said, smiling. Shall we try again, Endeavor's son? The boy opened both eyes, surprised, but quickly went on guard. Who are you, and what do you want from me? I'm not important, the freckled boy shrugged. But I want you to join my organization. What organization? The League of Villains, Izuku told him, smiling. Todoroki was startled. Was the boy a villain? Do you really think I would join some dirty villains? Todoroki asked him. Do I look like a dirty villain to you? Izuku frowned. Shoto didn't answer. I'm a villain because of the heroes, Midoriya explained. Besides, a villain brought me out of the darkness. What do you mean? Now I am someone, I have a purpose, Izuku said, looking at the sky. Don't you want to have a purpose and achieve something for yourself? You know. Without Endeavor's help. Todoroki considered it for a moment. Was the boy right? Was he meant to be a villain? Izuku sighed. I'll leave you an address, in case you change your mind, Izuku said, handing him a paper. If you go, ask for me, Izuku Midoriya. Todoroki took the paper, hesitant. The boy gave him a small smile and turned away, walking away. There, in the alley, remained a bicolor boy, who was starting to question his loyalty to heroes. Izuku smiled at the sky. Izuku walked into the bar, tired after running for 2 hours. He had been training his body so he could fight in hand-to-hand combat without any trouble when needed. Tomura was waiting for him, but to Izuku's surprise, he wasn't alone, as usual. Izuku decided not to pay much attention and closed the door behind him. He sat on the couch, staring at his phone. Are you Midoriya? Asked the guy, an adult wearing a bartender uniform. His skin seemed empty. Midoriya nodded without looking at him. His eyes were fixed on his phone, waiting for a call. I'm Kurogiri, the man said. Shigaraki has told me about you. Izuku nodded again, still not looking up from his phone. Hey, you, did you find someone interesting? Tomura asked. The boy nodded, and at that moment, his phone rang. Hello? He answered. Is this Izuku Midoriya? The voice on the other end asked. Kurogiri and Tomura looked confused at Izuku, wondering what was going on. Yes, this is Izuku Midoriya. How can I help you? Izuku replied. I'm calling about your offer. I want to accept it, said the voice. I'm glad you've decided to accept, Izuku responded. Is there a place where we can meet? You know, to discuss the matter. I'll send you the address of a nearby cafe, we can meet there. Okay, does tomorrow afternoon work for you? The voice asked. Yeah. Izuku replied absent-mindedly. See you tomorrow. Goodbye. The call ended. Who were you talking to? Tomura asked. With our new member. With him and Endeavor's son, there's nothing to fear, Izuku told them. Endeavor's son? Kurogiri asked. Yeah, the youngest son, Shoto Todoroki, he explained. What a coincidence. Kurogiri muttered. Huh? Izuku asked, confused. The man waved it off. And you? Tomura asked Kurogiri. How did recruiting go? It went well. I recruited at least 100 members who might be interested. 100? Izuku asked worriedly. He had only recruited 2. Kurogiri nodded without giving it much importance. I've been recruiting for at least a year. Besides, most of them are disposable, we'll only use them for attacks. I see, Izuku murmured. To attack that hero? Tomura nodded. We'll tell you who soon. Be patient. Izuku was about to protest, but a knock on the door interrupted him. Tomura and Kurogiri were on alert, but Izuku knew who it was, so he approached the door and opened it. Welcome, Todoroki-kun, Izuku said, smiling. On the other side was Shoto Todoroki, Endeavor's youngest son. The boy didn't seem very happy to be there, but he had decided that Izuku was right, he didn't have to become a hero. Tomura-san, Kurogiri-kun, let me introduce Todoroki Shoto-kun, Midoriya spoke. The youngest son of Endeavor and the new member of the League of Villains. Pleasure to meet you, Todoroki-san, greeted Kurogiri. Shoto just nodded in greeting. Now what? Shoto asked. I'm here, will you tell me your goal? Tomura was about to answer, but Izuku beat him to it. We still don't know if we can trust you. We're not sure if you'll run and tell your father or the heroes. We can't tell you our goal yet, right, Shirogaki-san? Tomura smiled. Izuku Midoriya was definitely an interesting guy. Exactly, Midoriya, he replied, staring at him. The bicolor-haired boy sighed. He had swallowed his pride and presented himself in front of villains, and now they were telling him they didn't trust him? What a joke. Calm down, Kurogiri told him. You'll know soon why we need you. Todoroki nodded, still grumpy. For now, go home, Tomura told him. We'll contact you. And remember, if you tell anyone about this, consider your life over. Shoto nodded again and left the place. Izuku got up from the couch and headed to his room. Yes, his room. Apparently, this small bar was more than just a bar, it had 6 rooms, a kitchen, and even a living room with a TV. Izuku, running away from home, stayed there. He had taken ownership of a room and decorated it to his liking. This time, instead of a room full of All Might merchandise, it was filled with paintings with information about heroes. Do you know where he got them? Of course. His hero notes. He had framed every page that contained important information about each hero. It seemed that all his years as a hero fan would help him in his villain life. Tilda, how ironic life is, isn't it? Thought the boy lying on his bed, looking at the ceiling. Sleep began to take its toll, and without changing his clothes, he settled in, letting the darkness embrace him. Are you Izuku Midoriya-san? The freckled person was sitting in a cafe, waiting for the person who had answered his call. Izuku looked up from the menu in his hands, and the person he was waiting for stood in front of him. It's me, Izuku said. The person in front of him looked around his age, with golden hair and eyes, and his hair had a funny black lightning bolt shape. I'm Kaminari Denki, the guy introduced himself. And I have a very good idea of how I can be useful to you. Sit down, and let's discuss it, shall we? Midoriya offered. Denki agreed and sat in the chair in front of him. Okay. As I mentioned, I'm Kaminari Denki, he began. I have an electric quirk, which means I can generate electricity from my body. I see, said Midoriya as he noted it in his notebook. Weaknesses? Well, when I use my quirk too much, my brain short-circuits, and I'm out of commission. I have a solution for that, but why do you want to join our cause? Izuku asked, looking him in the eyes. Kaminari didn't speak for a moment, but then smiled cheerfully. Don't worry, that's the reason, okay? He said smiling. As I was saying, I have an idea to be of help. And what is that idea? I can infiltrate UA, the guy said bluntly. I've applied for the exam in 3 months, and I'm sure I can get into the hero course. Izuku widened his eyes at that. Infiltrate UA? The most prestigious hero school in the country? The guy seemed completely sure he could get in, even though the acceptance rate was less than 3%. Was he that powerful? Seeing Midoriya's silence, Kaminari became concerned. Was he reconsidering? So? Kaminari asked, pulling Midoriya out of his thoughts. Do we have a deal, Midoriya-san? Izuku thought for a moment but then nodded, taking Kaminari's extended hand. Welcome aboard, Kaminari-kun. Denki stood up and left, leaving Midoriya alone. He watched his back as he walked away, wondering, what are your intentions, Kaminari Denki? As he took a sip of his coffee. The small cafe's bell rang, indicating another person had arrived. It was a brown-haired girl with big eyes and rosy cheeks. The usual, Ochako-chan? The waitress asked as she melted into her seat. The girl planned to apply to UA, trained hard every day, and, after her training, would come to this cafe to order the cheapest tea on the menu. Her economic situation didn't allow for more. Yes, please, she asked, smiling at the waitress. The waitress left, and Ochako sat up, looking around for something interesting to pass the time. To her left, there was a young couple cursing each other, which she decided to ignore, and to her right, there was a freckled guy with green eyes and hair, wearing black pants and a gray hoodie, seemingly engrossed in his notebook. That guy caught Ochako's attention. There was something about him that seemed strange, like something that shouldn't be there. Here you go, a voice interrupted her thoughts. The waitress brought her order. Thanks. She thanked, and the waitress smiled and left. Taking a small sip of her chamomile tea, she tried to look back at the freckled guy, but he was no longer there. Ochako looked around, trying to find the guy. She couldn't have imagined it, right? Who are you, and why are you staring at me? A voice sounded behind her. She turned quickly, and there, behind her, and staring at her, was the green-haired guy. He seemed familiar. Had she seen him before? Oh. The girl said, still unable to organize her thoughts. I asked you a question. Who are you? The guy repeated seriously. I'm Ochako Uraka. She quickly responded. She knew it was silly to give her full name to a complete stranger, but this guy intimidated her. Do you have a problem with me? The guy asked, trying to remember where he had heard that name before. Ochako quickly shook her head. Then stop looking at me, he told her, not as a request but more like an order. The girl looked at him. I can look at whoever I want, she replied, regretting it instantly. Oh, really? He asked sarcastically. Believe me, you don't want to mess with me. And do you want to mess with me? She challenged him. Intriguing, the guy said, smiling. Are these just words? Do you want to find out? He smiled at her one last time and turned around, intending to leave. The girl let out a breath, seeing that he hadn't done anything, but this also gave her some confidence to keep talking to him. Wait. The brunette said. I still don't know your name. Do you need to? He asked. Well, of course, how else will I know who to curse? The guy smiled without turning around. Izuku Midoriya. We'll meet again, Midoriya-san, the girl affirmed. Oh, believe me, I know, he replied. Ochako watched Midoriya leave the cafe and disappear into the crowd. She didn't know she had just interacted with a villain, but she was convinced that meeting the freckled guy was predestined. Meanwhile, Izuku laughed lightly at how ironic life was. Midoriya recognized the girl's name. She was one of the people applying to UA's hero course this year. They went their separate ways, but both knew they would meet again. One way or another. So he hasn't come, muttered a blonde while looking around like I care. Today was the day of the entrance exam for UA, and it seemed that the damn Deku hadn't bothered to show his face. Hey, said a feminine voice behind him, are you okay? Huh? Said the boy, turning around. What's it to you? Behind him was a brown-haired girl looking at him with concern. It seems like you're looking for someone, she said. Need help finding them? I'm not looking for anyone, he shouted, attracting everyone's attention around him. Obviously, Katsuki didn't care. I just wanted to see if he happened to come. Are you sure you don't need help? The girl insisted. If she wanted to become a hero, she was convinced she should help everyone, no matter how grumpy they were. If only you'd tell me his name or describe him. Midoriya Izuku, idiot. Will you leave me alone already? Bakugo interrupted, exasperated. Wait, did you say Midoriya Izuku, Uraka? Asked a guy with green hair and freckles. You know him? He asked, too surprised to shout at her. The girl nodded. I met him about 3 months ago, she exclaimed. He's an interesting guy, I haven't been able to get him out of my mind. You're an idiot, Bakugo exclaimed. That nerd ran away from home almost a year ago. Ran away from home? The girl asked. No wonder he was so cautious when talking to me. Idiot. I wanted to help, the offended girl exclaimed. It's not fair that you treat me like this. Bakugo sighed. I don't want to see you ever again in my life, Katsuki told her, turning around and walking away. Believe me, the feeling is mutual, the brown-haired girl shouted after him. He just gave her the middle finger without turning around. Uraka sighed and entered the building where she would take the practical exam, thinking about what the ashy blonde boy had said. Was that boy on the run? That would explain his behavior when she was looking at him. Is he involved in something illegal or something like that? Even after knowing this, why did she still want to see him? Tilde focus, Ochako exclamation mark tilde. She told herself mentally, this is not the time to ask senseless questions. Hey! Can you help me? A voice said behind her. The girl turned and found herself face to face with a blonde guy with golden eyes. Of course, what do you need? She asked, smiling. I can't find the building for the practical exam, he said, scratching his head. Can you take me there? Certainly, she said, smiling at him. Follow me. By the way, I'm Kaminari Denki. Uraka Ochako. Both teenagers walked straight to the building, right in front of them. Ochako didn't understand how she couldn't find it, and entered. There was a large room that looked like an amphitheater, and in the center was the professional hero present Mike. Both kids took a seat, side by side. Kaminari smiled at Uraka, as if to thank her. Ochako returned the smile. Hey, present Mike shouted, startling everyone. If you're ready, shout hey. No one in the room spoke, and present Mike looked disappointed. It seems like you lack excitement, he murmured. I'll go on to explain the exam. Did he really think someone would answer him? Denki asked, leaning towards Ochako. I don't know, she replied, leaning towards him, and their heads bumped. Sorry. Sorry. They looked at each other and smiled. There will be 3 types of villains, each with different difficulties. If you defeat them, you earn a certain number of points, and it's the points that determine if you get in or not. Any questions? A blue-haired boy with glasses immediately raised his hand. Yes? In the pamphlet they gave us, there were 4 robots. Is this a wording mistake? If so, UA should be ashamed of making such a big mistake. Also, there are 2 guys who haven't stopped flirting and distracting others. Do they want to ruin our chance of entering the prestigious UA school? Ochako and Denki looked at each other, and the girl blushed. Flirting? Oh yeah. That last robot is like an extra, worth 0 points. You can defeat it, but you won't gain anything by doing so, present Mike explained, shrugging. Thanks for clarifying my doubt, the boy exclaimed with an exaggerated bow. Now check your card for the field number, present Mike requested. Now go, and good luck to everyone. We got the same one, Kaminari-kun, exclaimed Ochako. Kaminari nodded, smiling at her, and they both stood up and headed to the battlefield, where a great fight awaited them. Most there wanted to be heroes, and few would achieve it. It was unfair that someone without the slightest intention of being a hero would get in. But of course, that's life, isn't it? The doors opened, and in front of the candidates was a nearly life-sized replica of an ordinary city. See you, Uraka-san, Denki shouted as he moved away. Goodbye. Ochako watched him before darting out to start destroying robots. Kaminari began shooting electricity from his body, being careful not to harm others. He wanted to make a good impression, after all. About 5 minutes and 30 destroyed robots later, distant screams were heard. Huh? Kaminari murmured, approaching the sounds. He quickly realized what was happening. The 0-point robot was apparently gigantic, almost the size of a building. Looking around, Denki saw everyone else escaping, but there was a small figure under a rock that caught his attention. Uraka-san? Kaminari murmured. The brunette was trapped and unable to move, and the 0-point robot was starting to move/roll in her direction. If no one did anything, the robot would run over her. Kaminari hesitated for a moment, sighed, and ran in the opposite direction of everyone else, towards the giant robot. He got close enough to the robot and placed a hand on it. 1,000,000 volts. The boy exclaimed, releasing a large amount of electrical discharge. The robot was completely toasted and fell to the side, destroying several buildings upon hitting the ground. Before, such a large discharge would have left him like an idiot for a good while. Now, thanks to the resistance ability granted by All for One, he could withstand electrical shocks almost 3 times what he could produce. Thanks, Kaminari-kun. The girl thanked him with a smile. Denki helped lift the rock, and Ochako got out. All the other applicants approached, wondering who had destroyed it so powerfully, and there was Kaminari, smiling without a scratch. 5 minutes. Present Mike's voice sounded from a speaker. Everyone forgot that thought and focused on destroying robots again. He's a powerful guy, said a voice in the control room. And he jumped in to save the girl, another replied. A heroic and powerful guy, isn't that what we're looking for? Kaminari Denki has 36 points for destroying robots, plus 60 points for saving the girl. He has 96 points so far, said the first voice. He's an amazing guy. The UA director attended. Kaminari will be an exceptional hero. Everyone in the room agreed. Who would have thought that the boy's intentions were far from being a hero? How did it go, Kaminari-kun? A freckled boy asked while opening the bar door. Better than I thought, he assured. I gained 76 points for destroying robots. Kaminari decided not to mention the part where he saved Uraka, being careful of Izuku Midoriya's opinion of him. Well done, Izuku replied nostalgically. You know, getting into UA was my dream during elementary and middle school. You in a hero school? Denki was surprised. But you're the least heroic person I know. Is that so? Midoriya laughed sarcastically. You forget about Kurogiri-san or Shigaraki-san. Kurogiri-san is a polite villain, I don't know, it's very strange, Denki replied. And Shigaraki-san is one of those villains with a sad past, so his behavior is balanced. And all for one? He asked. That guy is pure evil. You're right, you're the second least heroic person I know, Kaminari told him. Izuku laughed. You know what? I'll take it as a compliment. Better that way, the boy said. I just came to let you know that I got into UA, so I'll be going. Okay, Izuku replied. I'll tell Kurogiri-san and Shigaraki-san. Kaminari nodded, turned around, and left the bar, hands in his pockets. It was cold, winter had just begun. Kaminari walked down the street, looking around. Every time he breathed, a small puff of smoke came out of his mouth. Kaminari-kun. A voice exclaimed behind him. The boy turned, and behind him was Ochako Uraka, waving cheerfully. Uraka-san, he exclaimed in surprise. What are you doing here? Nothing, just came for coffee, she said, pointing absent-mindedly to the nearby cafe. Want to join me? Kaminari thought about it. He wouldn't gain anything by accompanying her, but it wouldn't hurt either. Do you want to be that bad? Giving the poor girl a false image of you. A voice in his head said. Kaminari smiled. With pleasure, Uraka-san, he replied. Kaminari-kun, you saved me, and you're one of the best people I've met, the brunette said, smiling. So please, call me Ochako. Denki was startled. Calling her by her first name showed a lot of trust. How much did this girl trust him? Okay, he said carefully. Ochako-chan. How did it go, Katsuki? Asked his mother when she saw him enter through the door. Like you care, Bakugo replied, unenthusiastically. Mitsuki shrugged. Do you think I wouldn't pass, you darn witch? Katsuki shouted. How was I supposed to know if you don't tell me anything? His mother responded in the same manner. Try to figure it out. And what? Did you get in? We don't know yet, but with 60 points, I'd be surprised if they didn't accept me. Mitsuki? A male voice sounded from the kitchen. Did Katsuki arrive? And he, being an idiot, scored 60 points on the entrance exam. Mitsuki replied. Katsuki rolled his eyes. His mother could be very annoying. He went up to his room to avoid continuing the conversation. Despite having an incredible score, and likely getting into UA, why did he feel so defeated? Maybe because you found out Deku isn't up to anything good, a traitorous voice inside his head said. No, he told himself. I don't care what happens to the nerd. Are you sure? You feel guilty that he disappeared? No, Bakugo shouted unconsciously. Katsuki, don't start yelling out of nowhere. His mother's voice came from downstairs. The blonde snorted. He decided to go for a run to clear his thoughts. Changing into workout clothes, he vaguely said goodbye to his parents, left his house, and headed to the park. I don't care. I don't feel guilty, he repeated with each step. I don't care if he becomes a villain. I don't feel guilty. Bakugo was so absorbed in his thoughts that he didn't realize he bumped into someone, a boy his age. Get out of my way. He told the person without looking. Oh, the boy responded, looking at him intently. Is that how you treat an old friend? Bakugo froze at that voice. It couldn't be. Could it? Slowly turning his head, his suspicions became real. Before him stood Izuku Midoriya, taller and more athletic than before. Deku, Katsuki muttered. Hey, Kachan, the freckled boy said, smiling. Isn't it a coincidence that we both came out for a run to the same place? Katsuki remained silent for a few seconds, trying to process the situation. Damn nerd, Bakugo exclaimed after a moment. He approached Deku and grabbed the collar of his shirt, but Izuku didn't flinch. I'd prefer if you let go, Kachan, Izuku said, looking him in the eyes, defiant. How dare you disappear like that? Bakugo whispered, his voice trembling with anger. Causing me so much trouble. And for what? Because you couldn't accept the reality that you can't be a hero? To Bakugo's surprise, Deku laughed. Accept reality? Trust me, I left your reality behind. Now I have my own reality. What are you up to, Deku? Oh, by the way, Midoriya exclaimed, completely ignoring Katsuki. I heard you got a super score at UA, was it? 60 points? Bakugo was startled. How did he know? I have my ways of finding out, Kachan, Izuku said before he could say anything. Now, if you'll excuse me. Midoriya gestured towards Bakugo's hand, but Katsuki only tightened his grip. Kachan, seriously, he said. I have to go. Do you think I'll let you go that easily? Bakugo asked, spitting in his face. What are you playing at, Deku? Kachan, I'm starting to get angry, the freckled boy said, looking him in the eyes. Let me go. Hey, and what will you do? Katsuki taunted. Deku had never beaten him, and he never would. Deku took Katsuki's wrist and squeezed. Bakugo tried to create an explosion in his other hand, but it didn't work. What the? He didn't have time to finish the sentence. Somehow, in a way the blonde didn't understand, Izuku created an explosion in his hand and placed it on Bakugo's hand. Katsuki was forced to let go. How did you do that? He asked, astonished. Deku wasn't paying attention, he was brushing dust off his pants. It was nice seeing you again, he said, ignoring Bakugo's question. Although, you know what? I really hate you, and you should watch your back. But what? Goodbye, Bakugo Katsuki. The freckled boy walked away, leaving Katsuki stunned and confused, without enough confidence to go after him. Hey, Kurogiri-san, called Midoriya, when will you bring the other members so we can meet them? I can't bring them, Midoriya-kun, replied the man while washing some glasses. As I've told you, there are more than 100, and we don't want to jeopardize our safety. Izuku sighed. Are none of them trustworthy? Because without new members, this place feels boring. Cheer up, Kurogiri said. Besides, I already have a few members we could share our location with. Oh yeah? Yes, I just need to communicate better with them. How about we meet them today? Not today, Midoriya-kun, Kurogiri said, and there are only two, a girl and a boy. Fine, Izuku conceded defeat, but when they gather, take me with you, okay? After all, you're just a kid, Kurogiri murmured. Don't worry, I'll let you know. Izuku smiled at him. At that moment, someone knocked on the door, and both villains became alert. It's me, open up, came the voice from the other side. They relaxed, recognizing Kaminari Denki's voice. Izuku approached the door and opened it. In front of him stood Kaminari Denki, tired and soaked. The response from UA has arrived, the boy said between breaths, apparently having run there. He entered, and the three sat on a nearby couch. Isn't Shiragaki-san here? Denki asked. No, but we can't wait for him either, Midoriya told him. Denki nodded and opened the envelope from UA. A small device came out, started emitting light, and a video began to play. To everyone's surprise, the hero appearing was none other than All Might, the #1 hero. The three immediately became more attentive. Young Kaminari, exclaimed All Might, you got the highest score in the practical exam. Izuku gave him a small punch on the shoulder. With your 76 points for destroying robots, you've earned the first place, continued All Might. However, if we add the 60 points you got for saving that girl, it adds up to the incredible sum of 136 points. A record. Izuku and Kurogiri looked at Kaminari confused. He just stayed silent, not knowing what to say. You've entered UA with honors, and surprise. I, All Might, will be your teacher in this course. An opportunity to defeat him, thought Kurogiri. An opportunity for revenge, thought Izuku in the same way. Please, don't ask about Ochako-chan! Kaminari pleaded. Do I have to finish now? All Might asked someone behind the camera at the dot. Kaminari Denki, you've entered UA. We look forward to seeing you. The recording ended, and for a moment, no one said anything. Kaminari hoped they wouldn't bring up the part where he saved Ochako, but Kurogiri and Midoriya had their minds elsewhere. All Might, symbol of peace, #1 hero, and now, a teacher at UA. Well done, Kaminari-kun, congratulated Kurogiri. Now I understand why you were so confident about getting in. Entering UA with 136 points, Midoriya marveled as he leaned back on the couch. You're amazing, Kaminari-kun. Hee hee. Thanks, Denki hesitated in his gratitude. None of them had mentioned that he had saved the brunette girl. Had they forgotten? I guess I'll go. If I have more news, I'll come back. Wait, Midoriya interrupted him, and the blonde's breath stopped abruptly. When did you say classes start at UA? Oh. In a week, the boy said, and he could breathe again. Okay. Izuku said, nodding. Well. See you. Kaminari took the device and quickly left through the door. The kid broke a record, huh? Kurogiri thought out loud. Surprising, isn't it? Midoriya responded as he stood up. Kurogiri nodded. The last person who had entered with so many points was All Might. Who is Denki Kaminari? Midoriya-kun, wait, Kurogiri stopped him. How powerful is Kaminari-kun? I've never seen him in action, Izuku said, shrugging. But to have broken a record like that, he must have good control of his quirk. Izuku thought about what he had done. Truthfully, he hadn't told the villains that he had taken Kaminari Denki to All for One, and that was probably why he had earned so many points. Kurogiri nodded, thoughtful. I'm going to sleep, Izuku informed. Good night. Good night, Midoriya-kun. Izuku turned and left, closing the door behind him. Todoroki-kun will also enter UA, right? Izuku thought. I guess I can use him to get information about All Might and Kacchan. The boy smiled. His revenge was close, and this time, there was nothing holding him back. Katsuki, don't scare your teachers on the first day. Good luck, son. Bakugo decided to ignore his annoying parents since they only bothered him. The boy wore the uniform of the famous UA school. Why? Because today was the first day of classes, obviously. The blonde walked down the street, his backpack swung from side to side with each step. He headed to the subway station, wanting to make a good impression and arrive on time. He still hadn't gotten over his encounter with Deku in the park. What was he playing at? His behavior wasn't the same as usual, he was cold and emotionless. He had also gained confidence in himself. Could it be because of his new quirk? Katsuki wondered. He hadn't mentioned this meeting to anyone, not to his father, not to his mother, and certainly not to Inko Midoriya. Bakugo didn't want to admit that he hadn't been strong enough to defeat Deku and bring him back to make the world work again. Katsuki wanted to get the encounter with the boy out of his head. He stood in front of Class 1A, which had a huge door, and he still couldn't concentrate. I'll be a hero, he thought determinedly. I'll be a hero even better than All Might. The boy took a deep breath and opened the door. Some students were there, including Uraka Ochako, Todoroki Shoto, and Kaminari Denki. But of course, Katsuki Bakugo wasn't interested in any of them. The boy approached a desk and sat down, putting his feet on the table. Put your feet down, exclaimed a blue-haired, glasses-wearing boy, grabbing everyone's attention. These desks were used by heroes. Putting your feet on them is disrespectful. Are you an idiot or what? Bakugo scoffed. Now everyone in the class was looking at them. Ochako and Denki had stopped their conversation and were giving him strange looks. The glasses-wearing boy looked at him indignantly, and their argument continued for a few minutes, eventually losing everyone's interest. Hey, Kaminari-kun? Ochako called. Yes? Do you know a boy named Izuku Midoriya? The girl asked somewhat distantly, looking at Bakugo. Izuku Midoriya? Kaminari asked, astonished. The girl nodded, looking at him. Do you know him? Damn. With that reaction, I can't deny it anymore, thought Denki. Oh, yes. I remember reading his name in the newspaper. Kaminari lied. Wasn't he missing? The girl nodded, feeling low-spirited. How had seeing that blonde boy with ruby eyes changed her mood so much? Did you know him? Denki dared to ask. No, the girl said sadly. I guess not. The boy looked at her confused but didn't say anything. He was afraid of making things worse or jeopardizing his position. Hey! What about the teacher? A short, purple-haired girl with headphones hanging from her ears asked. You're right, Denki replied. Shouldn't he have arrived by now? I'm here, a voice sounded in the room. Everyone looked at each other confused. Whose voice was that? Ah, shouted an invisible girl. Our teacher is a worm. Everyone looked where the girl was pointing, or at least the sleeve of her shirt, and there they saw their handsome teacher in a sleeping bag. Ugh, grunted the teacher as he got up. Now get up, we're going to do some tests. Huh? Ochako exclaimed. But it's only the first day. So what? The teacher asked with the same monotone tone. And nothing, I guess, the intimidated girl replied. As they followed their teacher, Ochako looked at Kaminari as if to say, "What's up with this teacher?" Kaminari shrugged, smiling slightly. To be honest, he didn't expect a test on the first day of classes. There will be several physical tests, the teacher said when they reached the outside of UA. I just want to see how powerful you are and how well you control your quirks. So it's not that difficult. Ochako thought. I have to do well, show my father that I don't need his help. Shoto thought the same way. I have to make it, and first of all, I can't afford to fail. Denki also thought. Ha! Only that? I could do it asleep. Katsuki's thoughts echoed in his head. Ah! And whoever I don't see potential in will be expelled from UA, the teacher said. What? What I said. But, teacher, what? Denki started to speak. Excuse me, what's your name? Aizawa Shota. But Aizawa-sensei, we already passed the entrance exam. I don't care, Aizawa replied. In my class, you do what I say. If you're scared, get out of my sight and never come back to UA. Understand? Everyone nodded, swallowing nervously. Did their future as heroes depend on this strange teacher? Now warm up, you'll start the first test soon. Aizawa got back into his sleeping bag and lay down on the ground, leaving 19 students stunned. Who would have thought that 2 of them had bad intentions? Has everyone done physical tests, right? Shota asked, and everyone nodded. The only difference is that you can use your quirk for these tests, so don't hold back. That's awesome, Ochako exclaimed. Finally, we'll be tested at 100%. You, the loud blonde, Aizawa called. I'm not loud. When was your record for throwing the ball at your previous school? -67 meters, the proud boy replied, surprising everyone. Just what I expected from the second place in the entrance exam, Shota remarked. Tilda the second? Wasn't he supposed to be first? Thought the surprised students, especially Bakugo. Now, you, the not-so-loud blonde, Aizawa called Denki. What's your record? It was 84 meters, Aizawa-sensei, Kaminari lied. After all, they would never find any record of his in any school. Worthy of first place, Aizawa muttered. Everyone looked at Denki, surprised. Bakugo had scored 60 points. How many had Kaminari Denki scored? And the guy who broke All Might's record, Aizawa continued. All Might's record ? Tilda thought the entire class, shocked. Did that guy break All Might's record? Katsuki murmured, hardly believing it. He had barely reached half of his 120 points record. And that guy surpassed it? How did he do it? Everyone looked at the blonde guy in disbelief, but Bakugo decided to lower his gaze. I'll never be able to beat him. A treacherous voice said inside him. I'll never become the #1 hero. Not with him around. Let's start with the tests, Shota said, and the boy shook his head to get rid of his negative thoughts. We'll start with you, Kaminari Denki. The boy took a step forward, feeling uncomfortable. Take this ball and throw it as high as you can. You can do anything as long as you don't step out of the circle on the floor, Aizawa said while handing him the ball. The boy took the ball and swallowed nervously. Okay. He stretched his arms a bit and prepared to throw the ball. He used a strong electric current for a powerful throw, took a leap, and threw it as hard as possible. Everyone looked excitedly at Aizawa and his measuring device. He showed the results without flinching. -1,450 meters? Most of the class exclaimed. It seemed impossible that he had thrown it over a kilometer. How will I beat him? Katsuki thought desperately. How will I achieve it? What should I do? Now you, he said, pointing to the next student. So, a few hours of hard work passed, with Kaminari taking first place in each test, without bragging, but rather with incredible humility, and Bakugo in second, always thinking of ways to surpass Denki. These are the scores for everyone. Aizawa said while pressing a button that lit up a screen behind him. Check them. 16 students carefully examined the screen, since Kaminari Denki didn't care, and the other two had entered by recommendation, making it impossible for them to be expelled, and the last place was a purple-haired girl with headphones hanging from her ears. Kyoka Jiro bit her nails as she saw the results. Her quirk didn't help with physical activities, and she wasn't very athletic. By the way, about the expulsion part, Shota began, and everyone fell silent to hear him. All eyes were on Kyoka. It was a lie, your classes start soon. Everyone was shocked. Jiro, relieved, started to cry. The girls, who had already formed bonds, approached and hugged her. Hey, you, Kaminari-kun, a voice behind him said. He turned around to see a black-haired girl with a high ponytail. Can I ask you a question? Doesn't that count as one? Kaminari joked. The girl stared at him without laughing at all. It was a joke, hee. What do you need? How does your body handle that amount of electrical energy? The girl asked. Shouldn't something happen to your body when expelling so much electricity? That, Denki exclaimed, quickly thinking of an excuse. Everyone had stopped their conversations to pay attention to them. My dad had an electrical quirk, and my mom had a brain with electrical resistance. Their marriage was planned. That happened. Oh. Sorry, Kaminari-kun, I didn't know, the girl said, looking at him with pity. No, don't apologize, Denki told her with a smile. There's no way you could have known. Todoroki, who had heard the whole conversation, couldn't believe what he was hearing. Was that guy like him? A victim of a planned marriage? Denki felt bad after saying that. He didn't like lying about his parents, especially for such a silly reason to stay at UA. After all, he was doing everything for them. I love these 5 idiots, and I would give the world for them. 18. I love these 5 idiots, and I would give the world for them.